Hey, welcome to another episode of Spritz of Wisdom. Let's begin like we do every single week with my sip of the week. These are my highs and lows of the previous 7 days living here in South Italy. Starting with highs, the weather is beautiful. I'm feeling really full of the joys of spring. And I'm happy because in Italy, this is actually the perfect time. When we roll into June, July, August, the heat can be a little bit unbearable, but now it is just glorious. And I'm contemplating changing my wardrobe maybe this weekend because it's starting to be like early 20s at least in terms of temperature every day. So I'm super, super happy. It's a beautiful time to be here. I did some gardening at the weekend. We now have some more daisies in our garden, which are really, really beautiful. Oh, and I got my nails done this morning in a really beautiful summer shade. It's like this bright pink, but when you look into the sunlight, there's this iridescent, glittery pale blue. It's amazing. You need to check out my Instagram stories. If you're listening to this on Tuesday, the story is there. But honestly, I am feeling so good. Like, totally impacted by the weather. I completely get it. And I realized that I am a summer baby. I was born in August. And so kind of as we move into like the spring and summer, this is definitely my time of the year. And I'm also feeling really good because we've got a couple of bank holidays coming up. I tell you, it's worked really nicely this year. So we've got this Saturday, which is the 25th of April, is the Liberation Day in Italy. So this is a red day in Italy. And then also on the 1st of May, which is like the Labor Day for workers. And that falls on a Friday. So I've just extended it and I've got a nice long weekend. And what you find happens here in Italy is people do this bridge. I think it's called like a ponte. It's like a bridge. And some people, if they've been really smart, will be off from Saturday this week and they'll take like Monday to Thursday next week. And then they end up having like a whole week off work. It's super, super smart. But this is how people kind of max out their holidays here. It's a really, really good tip. So yeah, feeling good, feeling really good. In terms of lows of the past week, well, let me talk about this. This is actually inspired, as always, today's full pour episode, because I will say to you, I'm starting to notice that there is a wave of fake Italy experts popping up on the internet. And, you know, I just say it how it is. There's no use in sugarcoating it. People are using AI to present themselves as experts on matters concerning living here, moving here. And I think it's just, really sad because I think if you want to help other people, you've got to have a genuine passion and it's got to come from somewhere deep inside. But it's also a sign of the times. And I feel like now AI is making it more difficult at points to understand what is really genuine and what has just been generated by crawling through the internet and clawing together some information, you know? So we're going to touch on this today. Let's move into the full pour because I had my monthly aperitivo hour call on Saturday with my community members. We've actually got a second one this month because I've got some members in Australia and their time zone is totally different. But it was just wonderful to catch up, you know, on everyone's news and hear what everybody was getting up to, because there are some members in my community now whose dreams are really, really taking shape. And it's just wonderful to be on that journey with them. But also it reminded me, you have to have passion in what you do. There is no denying it. I work really hard, absolutely, at what I do, but I feel so passionate about this community space. And I guess what I've really leaned into recently is it's not about quantity, it's about quality. I've got some great members that are part of my community. And I realize the quality of their membership and the value and the contributions that they bring means far more than having a community with hundreds of members and you don't really know very much about any of them. So that has been like fundamental for me, because I think if you plan to move to Italy, you need to lean into the people who are clearly passionate about what they're talking about. And when I mean passionate, I think you can tell the passion through the content that they produce. You know, they're sharing their personal experiences and stories. They are hopping onto like videos and reels and having these kind of natural conversations about what they're going through. They are researching life in Italy. You know, they're up to date with what's happening because things do change here. Maybe not always very quickly, but there are changes that happen here, especially to do with bureaucracy. And, you know, they're just really, really keen on everything to do with Italy and on helping people to achieve a life here like they have. You can tell that. And I follow many people who would definitely fit into that category. But unfortunately, the algorithm is also feeding me, because it knows I love Italy, a lot of content recently from people who are leaning into their own personal experience of moving here. And on that basis, creating programs and courses and positioning themselves as an expert to help people move to Italy. And this is where you have to be so careful, because a lot of those people, when I'm kind of having a bit of a nosy and looking at their content, you can tell that content has been just scraped from AI. Like, you can just tell the flow, the rhythm, the way it reads. It's not natural. And so if a description of a course has been written entirely with AI, what about the content that you're paying for? Has that also been scraped together through AI, or is that really somebody genuinely sharing their experiences and knowledge with you? And that's what you have to be so careful of. And that's what I feel really, really passionate about at the moment, because the internet is creating a wave of fake experts. AI makes any person sound intelligent. However, it's the depth of that intelligence that proves to you whether or not that person really is an expert. People spend years grafting away in their field of specialism, whether that be law, accountancy, real estate, whatever it may be. And now we've suddenly got AI that comes along and makes anybody sound as if they have expertise in that field. And it's crazy. But I tell you something, what cannot be replaced by AI is passion. And that's why I say to you, it's so important. You can tell when somebody wants to help other people and when somebody just wants to take the money because they want to create a business, because I really do believe moving to Italy is becoming a business. I also think as well, you can tell the people that put the hard work in and that really care about the experience and the interaction they have with their audience. And I think these clues can help you to understand who you should be listening to and who you shouldn't be. I feel that anything to do with legal matters, accountancy, real estate, you must get professional advice. Absolutely. Like, I realize I share my experiences, but I'm always really, really careful to say that no two people's experiences here will ever be the same. I'm not an expert. I'm just telling you my life story, and that I can point people in the direction of experts to really finalize that aspect for themselves. I bring people into my community to share their stories so that you can understand the different journeys people go on here, and that no two people's experiences are the same. Because this is a bit of a double-edged sword for me. As much as I think you need the expertise, because you absolutely do with anything to do with bureaucracy or legal matters, there's just no way around it. You need that expertise. On the other hand, I actually think that you learn more through people at points than you do through the experts. And where the two come together is that if you're dealing with citizenship, legal matters, anything to do with like finding a home, etc., that is definitely down to the expertise. But if you want to understand the more human side of living in Italy, what it's like to make friends, build connections, deal with things like loneliness that we've been talking about in our community, like deal with those human emotions, that's when you learn through real people's experiences. But it's a blend of the two. It's not possible to be an all-round expert. And that's what I really, really want to stress to you today, because I have read some pretty shocking things recently. And I don't know if people do this just to position their services, and make themselves be more kind of legitimate. But I read some threads the other week of people who are in the same niche as me saying that they've had clients or people come to them and they took advice from a so-called influencer on social media about moving to Italy, and they didn't actually get the necessary advice, and now they're in Italy and they're having problems. Now, I don't know how true that could be, but I do think that it's becoming more difficult now sometimes to identify who is genuine and who isn't on the internet, right? And who can really help you and who can't. So I guess with this episode today, I just want to give you some red flags to look out for, because I feel so passionate about this. I want you to come to Italy and I want you to build a thriving life here, but you're not going to do that if you listen to the wrong people. Number one, content. There's a certain rhythm to AI writing, right? And I think when you're reading something, you start to identify the kind of flow, the pattern. It doesn't really sound natural. If you're reading content and like all the content that you're reading about this person is written in this way, then I think it should be a red flag, because what else are you going to consume that has also come from AI, right? And that's what you need to think about. Are you going to be taking advice from AI, a bot, or are you taking advice from an actual human that knows what they're talking about? Okay. Second red flag is when people create courses and programs and it's based entirely on their own experience of moving here. Like I've said to you, not everybody can teach you what it's like to move here because everyone's experience is going to be so different. And so what worked for me may not work for you. And what worked for somebody else may not be the best decision for you. And so I feel like you have to be really, really careful about this. People who can genuinely help you have a knowledge of what it's like to move here under various different scenarios. Of course, there'll be some element of personalization and further consultation that will be needed to give you the exact, precise, correct advice. But generally speaking, people who know what they're talking about, they have a greater and broader knowledge of what to do in terms of moving here to Italy. And so I really, really want to say this in the nicest way possible, but in a way that protects you, because one person's experience of moving here may not translate to yours. And I don't want to see you come unstuck because you read in a course that you could do this and actually it doesn't apply to your situation. The third red flag I think I would say is if there isn't any other human content to this person. Let me tell you, living in Italy is a holistic experience. You learn so much. It's not just a tick box exercise. And there are too many people on the internet who feel very corporate with their approach. You know, you get this bureaucracy, you get that bureaucracy, you're in Italy. But that's just the beginning, my friends. Like when you move to Italy, it's a never ending journey. And that's part of the magic of it, to be honest. But if you don't address the other more human aspects of what your life is going to be like here, you will struggle in this country. And so you need to look for content that is relatable, people sharing with you the highs, the lows, the difficulties, the challenges, the wonderful moments, the kind of experiences they've been through. And if you come across people who aren't really doing that, how much do they really know about life here? You know, and I would also say as another red flag, what does that person do in Italy? And, you know, the reason I say this is because if you move here and you're retired here, you have a very different perspective of life here than someone who is working or is raising a family or is studying. So you need to understand at what life stage that person is at to be able to know the kind of perspective of life that they're giving you. I feel like also age is a big thing. We touched on this in my community as well, in that I really do think that at different stages of life, you will have different experiences here. And I think things like loneliness can occur a lot more when you move here older than when you're younger, because life just gives you different opportunities at those ages. And so I really want to say to you to pay attention to those red flags. These are things that you need to be concentrating on in order to be sure that the person you are listening to is giving you the best possible advice. And so I guess this is the perfect segue into my chin chin, which is just scratch a bit beneath the surface with the people that you listen to on the internet. Understand a bit more about their experiences in Italy, the content that they're producing, and the kinds of promises that they're making you. I sit here now and I say to you that I am no Italy expert. In fact, I really think, if I think about it now, I delayed launching my community because I didn't feel like I knew enough about Italy to help others. But it turns out I did. And also, I think it depends on the passion of the person. If the person is constantly researching, constantly learning, constantly bringing in experts who know their field and can help you in that way, this is a different story. But it cannot be that one person can teach you everything. And that's what you've got to be really careful about. I think it's also about the human side, the holistic side. Please, please do not forget about this, because I think that is the side that AI cannot create. That is the side that you know when you're reading something from someone that has been directly impacted by something, compared to someone that has just put something together and allowed AI to create a kind of really generic sentence. So just pay attention to all of the things that I've said to you today, because I want you to move here and build a thriving life. And, you know, whether it's through my content that you consume, my community that you join, or plenty of other fantastic creators in my space who do great things. I just want you to open your eyes and get a broader perspective of life here and not be sucked up into courses and programs that are not necessarily going to give you the advice that you really need. I'll see you in the next episode.